We are Vienna. We are Vienna. And I'm glad to be here this morning. I'm just going to wait here a second, see if my slide. There they are. Praise God. We are Vienna again. It's always good when things work out. I am really glad to see the church filling up today on one of the coldest days of the year. My heart is full to see the church filling up on one of the coldest days of the year. As we said this week in the newsletter, it may be cold outside, but it will be warm in our hearts in the church. And I've been enjoying the worship so far, and I set up this chair here today. And the reason I set up this chair here today is I suspect that there's somebody who needs a spot in our church. I suspect that there's somebody maybe watching online who is wondering as they watch online, is this a church that has a spot for me? I want them to see that this is a church that has a spot for them. Not that we're going to put you in the hot seat at the front, but we're willing to give you the best seat in the house. And if I would leave for you a seat here at the front of the church, then I know for sure these people on the edges of the aisles will definitely move to the center and make room for people as they come into the sanctuary. We have been talking about building bridges of belonging. That is our theme of the year. In our first sermon series that we are on the 5th week of and the final week of has been called Belonging by Design, but Connecting by Choice. And we've been working through these sermons, and we've been talking about how we're made to belong. We're talking about the fracture that happened. We're talking about how Jesus is the bridge that puts together the fracture. We've talked last week, Pastor Kosey did a wonderful job talking about what the New Testament family looks like. I began this series asking you a serious question, and I'm going to ask it again this morning. Is there anyone here who still believes in a literal 7-day creation? Anyone? I still believe in a literal 7-day creation. And because I still believe in a literal 7-day creation, I have to believe that we were created in a way to make us belong. We are created in a way to make us belong. Before sin, before command, before mission, there was belonging by design. Some people were here, they remember how this worked. I read one line, you read the other. Let's try it again. Before sin, before mission, you don't have to do something to belong. You don't have to earn your seat in our church. You don't have to be accepted. If the literal 7th-day creation story is true, you were designed to belong. The Lord said, "It is not good for man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him." And what we found out is that Adam realized that he was lonely. And what I said is loneliness is not Adam's failure, it's Adam's discovery. And if you haven't discovered your own loneliness, then you haven't discovered your own need to belong. The whole account of creation in Genesis 1 and 2 is there to show you that that longing in your heart to be a part of a community, that longing in your heart to not be completely disconnected is your original programming before sin. But it takes, I said in the first sermon, self-awareness. And a lot of Christians are lacking self-awareness. They think they know what's right. They think, or we think, I think sometimes, I know what's wrong. They think the world, their job, their country, their state, their family, their church would be better off if they just did it the way they want it done. Adam's realization in Genesis is that he's not enough alone. Adam comes to understand in Genesis that he is not enough alone. Have you? Because that's where we started. And without that, we don't move forward. Churches don't work until we realize loneliness is not a failure. It's a part of your programming. It's there to tell you you cannot isolate from your community. You cannot be outside a community of belonging. Ellen White says this in the book Patriarchs and Prophets when she says, man was not made to live in solitude. He was to be a what kind of being? A social being. Alone will never be enough. Man was not made to live in solitude. He was made to be a social being, reflecting the very image of God. And then Pastor Coasley told us what happened in Genesis 3 through 4. Despite how we were designed, the fracture came. And we see the fracture every day. We see it. I've seen it today. I've seen it yesterday. I've seen it in our halls. The fracture is a spirit of Cain. The fracture is when we think we can go it alone, or we think that the community is going it wrong, and they would be better if they just listened to me. Because that is the reason Cain killed Abel. And then the next week I preached about how Jesus, and only Jesus, is our peace that heals the fracture. Did you hear me, church? Jesus, and only Jesus, is our bridge that heals the fracture. I preach from Ephesians 2, where it says, but now in Christ Jesus, you who used to be far away, you who used to be operating on the principles of Cain, you who used to murder your brother for practice, you who went away to the city of Nog to live in isolation, you who were once far away have been brought near by the blood of Christ. He doesn't bring us peace. He is our peace. the one who made both groups into one, destroying the middle wall of partition, destroying hostility. And then Pastor Cosley again preached about what the New Testament church would look like, what becoming the family of Found would look like. He talked about how the disciples broke bread every day. He talked about the baptism of the 5,000, or the 3,000. He talked about how Peter preached that great sermon. He talked about how the early church met in small groups. And they got together to study the teachings of the apostles. He talked about how the early church supported each other and they sold their goods to make sure everybody was taken care of. He talked about how that spirit of that bridge, how that peace wasn't just for the individuals, but it was the foundation of how the church was to operate. Today, I will wrap it all together, talking about if you were designed to belong, if the fracture broke you, if Jesus is your bridge, and if the New Testament church is supposed to be a place of belonging and love, that means responsibility. We all have the responsibility of belonging. Now, we want to believe that it's somebody else's responsibility. Somebody else needs to give up their seat. Somebody else has to choose to sit in the front instead of the back. Somebody else has to move to the center of the aisle, or center of the pew, instead of staying on the edges every week. But I'm here to tell you, if everything we've learned so far is true, that somebody else is you. It's not the elders, it's not the pastors, it's not the deacons, but it is. It's all of us. Now, some of you have been coming to my Revelation series on Wednesday nights, and I appreciate you doing that. And you can still come. We are still only in chapter 2. Everybody in the church talks about how they want to know Revelation until you have a Revelation series, and very few people come. All I am saying is there's much room for you. But one of the things we learned is that for every chapter, every verse, every story in Revelation, there's usually an Old Testament parallel. And Isaiah 56 is the parallel to the famous Revelation 21 that you heard read today. These chapters are connected. In Isaiah 56, we find what God is calling the church to do. And as in Revelation 21, we see what it will look like when it is done. In between Isaiah 56 and Revelation 21 is Vienna. Is the empty chair. Belonging is our responsibility. God is already, we will see, God is already gathering people from the margins. We must take responsibility. Who? We are Vienna or responsible. I'll take either answer. For 500, Alex. My humor. Where's the Gen Xers? God is already gathering people from where? The margins, the forgotten. We must take responsibility for making their belonging a holy duty before God. Isaiah 56 starts off this way, saying, promote. Oh, are we living in 2026, anyone? This is the Bible, don't worry. Promote what? Justice. I didn't hear you. Justice. Promote? Justice. This is a command from God to what the church is supposed to be doing right now on our way to Revelation 21. The church should be doing what? Promote justice. I didn't hear you. Promote justice. Promote justice and do? What is right. Oh, it's not just a promotion show, it's an action show. Did you catch it? Promote justice, do what is right. And don't be afraid. Are you hearing me this morning? Don't be afraid to promote justice. And don't be afraid to do what's right. I'm going to assume you know right from wrong, good Seventh-day Adventists. Isaiah says the church that is preparing for Revelation 21 promotes justice, does what's right, and here's why. They're not afraid. For I am ready to deliver you. I am ready to vindicate you openly. Promote justice. Do what is right. For I am ready to deliver you. I am ready to vindicate you openly. No foreigner who comes to follow the Lord should say, the Lord will certainly exclude me from his people. There are no foreigners in God's temple. We always have a seat for them. No foreigner who comes to be a follower of the Lord should say, the Lord will certainly exclude me from his people. For the eunuchs who observe my Sabbath and choose what pleases me and are faithful to what? My covenant. Hold on, what are you saying here? Watch what he's saying here. I will make them what? I will make them what? Happy in the temple where people pray to me. For my temple will be known as a temple where? I didn't hear you. You're preaching this like it's not even in the Bible. I will make them happy in my temple, where people pray to me. My temple will be known as a temple where it's all in yellow. Say it together. Where all nations may pray. In other words, here's what he is saying. If God's people get down to doing the right stuff, if God's people get down to acting like real Christians, if God's people take responsibility for the forgotten, if God's people build bridges of belonging, if God's people not only realize they were designed for belonging, but choose to connect by choice, he will bring new people into your church, new people into your temple, new people into your seats, new people who used to be far away, new people who used to be pagans, new people who used to be eunuchs, and that's a word worth looking up, who used to be eunuchs, and they will keep the what? Seventh-day Adventists? Sabbath and the covenant. meaning they will be covered by the blood of Jesus. The very people we thought were outsiders become insiders. Listen to what Ellen White said about it in Acts of the Apostle. The church is God's appointed agency for the salvation of men. Mine house shall be called a house of prayer for how many people? All people. If God is saying to us that he is still gathering, we, the church, cannot say, we will wait and see. We, the church, must answer, we will practice justice and make room now. Which is why we have the chair. C.S. Lewis put it this way, next to the Blessed Sacrament itself, your neighbor is the holiest object presented to your senses. In other words, C.S. Lewis is saying, don't bother picking up the magic cracker. He's saying, don't bother taking communion. That's what he's saying here. If you don't understand how holy that person you cut down on a daily basis is. If you don't understand how holy that sinner who cuts through your yard is. If you don't understand how holy that difficult person on your floor is. Henry Nouwen goes on to put it this way. Hospitality means primarily the creation of a free space where the stranger can enter and become a friend. Is there any better definition of the church? The church should be that free space where the stranger or the foreigner, the eunuch, the Gentile, the unbeliever may enter and become friend. Not to change people, but to offer a space where change can take place. God is preparing that ultimate space. God is preparing that ultimate direction. God is preparing that final destination. John sees the future. And I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God, made ready like a bride, adorned for her husband. John sees the time in the future when there is no longer separation. John sees the time in the future where the church is no longer struggling to bring people into the empty chair. John sees the time in the future where the church is no longer differentiating itself from those who are outside. John sees the time in the future where we no longer have to preach the good news because everyone, it says, knows the Lord. John sees a time in the future where the hard work and the hard responsibility and every Sabbath school lesson ever taught, and where every Bible study ever given. John sees the time in the future where every sermon that has ever been finished. John sees the time in the future where every hand that's ever been greeted. John sees the time in the future where every plate that was ever served at the potluck. John sees the time in the future where every stream that ever went out from the AV department has reaped its fruit. John sees the time in the future when the empty seats are filled. And it's as beautiful as a bride on your wedding day. Now, ladies, you don't understand. Married men do. They may tell you you're beautiful every day. But I've been to the altar, and I've been up close when many other men came to the altar. And I'm going to tell you something. There is something different about the way a man looks at his bride when he lifts that veil. And I see men shaking their heads throughout the room. It is that John sees happen because of your responsibility. Because of your responsibility, because you promoted justice, because you left the gates open, because you let people come and enjoy the Sabbath with you, because you made room in your sanctuary for them. John sees the final sanctuary. John saw a holy city, a new Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God, made ready like a bride. How? And you know, ladies, as much as I said to you men, you know how you looked at her when you lifted that veil. You know how you adorned yourself that day, and you got sure the makeup was perfect and the hair was right, and you were panicking and people were running around you. I know. Why did you do it, ladies? You were in love. You were responsible for love. Love takes responsibility. Like a bride adorned for her husband. Some of you are saying, well, come on now, Pastor. We don't talk about adornment in the church. We don't talk about adornment in the church. We don't talk a lot about those things. We would like to talk about modesty. I'm just going to... Anyone know who H.S. Richards are? Review and Herald? First national radio broadcaster, Seventh-day Adventist. He was once asked, you know the story, don't you? He was once asked, should women wear makeup? I don't think I can fully quote him, Pastor, can I? He said, well, if the barn needs painting. I would point out, this is a true quote, I'm not making it, he knows. I would point out that he was blind, so he wouldn't know. Often was found reading his Bible upside down while preaching because he was that blind. My point is, responsibility is two ways. God will gather a people, but we will take the responsibility to be beautiful for them. Are you hearing me? Come on! God will gather a people. God will gather eunuchs and Gentiles and foreigners. But we must be ready to be beautiful for them. Because when we are beautiful for them, we are beautiful for Jesus. And I saw a holy city, a new Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God, made ready like a bride, adorned for her husband. And how does the husband respond? He will wipe away every tear from their eyes. Death will not exist anymore, or mourning, or crying, or pain, for the former things cease to exist. But listen to this. Those foreigners, those eunuchs, those Gentiles, the Greek word Gentile literally in English is nations, other nationalities, literally in Greek. Look where they will be on that day. Look where they will be on that day. The nations will walk by its light, and the kings of the earth will bring their gander into it. But nothing will be ritually unclean will ever enter into it. No, anyone who does what is detestable. God is cleaning up the nations. God is cleaning up his people. And when we make room for them in our church, they will walk by the light of the city. And it goes on to say this: its gates will never be closed during the day. And in brackets, by the way, there will be no night. There's a responsibility. There's a what? We don't teach Sabbath school classes because we like to. We might like to. We don't preach sermons because we like to. I mean, we might like to. We don't prepare potluck meals because we like to. I mean, we may like preparing potluck meals. Somebody likes eating them. Okay, you do eat them because you like to. You don't greet people because you want everyone's germs on your hands. You want everyone's germs on your hands because you're responsible for God's people. And there's no germ you wouldn't have on your hand because you're responsible for God's people. Now, I'm wrapping up. I'm going to share a quote or two, and I'm going to tell you a little story. But this next quote comes from Counselors on Stewardship, Patrick, from Ellen White, one of our pioneers that most of you will know. And it's going to be a little bit on point for you, okay? About responsibility. God calls upon his people to what? To wake to their what? Let me go back. God calls upon his people to what? Let's do it again. God calls upon his people to? One more time, and like you actually are reading it and actually care. And God calls upon his people to? When these are met, stop. What is your responsibility? Just tithe? Just tithe? Just tithe? Just tithe? Just tithe? I don't hear convinced voices. Just tithe? I still believe in a 7-day creation. I still believe in the writings of our church pioneers. That makes me more conservative than many people here. Let me read it to you again. God calls upon his people to wake to their responsibilities. When these are met by giving to the Lord, not your tithe, not your offering. God calls upon his people to wake to their responsibilities. When these are met by giving to the Lord his own tithes and everyone all together? Watch this. The way will be opened for the world to hear the message. Oh, you didn't want to finish that? The ways will be open for the world to hear that Vienna has left a chair for them. That Vienna cares about them. That Vienna has enough money to run a hypothermia shelter. That Vienna has enough money to run a health fair. That Vienna has enough money to have a properly equipped AV. That Vienna has enough money to keep the heating and air conditioning working. That Vienna has enough money to show up at Viva Vienna every year. That Vienna has enough money to have a robust budget for their Pathfinders and their Adventure Club. That Vienna has enough money to care for people who come to us, and they do come to us in need of assistance. For this is what I have left this empty chair for today. And I hope if this chair was meant for you, you have heard a church that is willing to awake to their responsibilities. When these are met by giving to the Lord his own tithes and offerings, the way will be open for the world to hear the message that the Lord, what's the word? Did you catch? This is why you didn't read it. Did you catch what it is? What's the sermon series called? It's almost like we plan these things out. Designed to belong. Connection by choice. The Lord designed them to hear it. Are you hearing me? The Lord designed them to hear it. Are you connecting by choice to be the conduit? Every time we sing a song, every time we greet our neighbor, every time we give a Bible study, every time we bring a dish for potluck, because some people like to eat it. Or prepare something for the Connection Cafe. Every time you do whatever job the church needs you to do, you are not doing it for your glory. You are connecting by choice. God has done his part. They are designed to belong. And he is gathering them. And we see evidence of that with 17 baptisms last year. We must connect by choice. About 22 years ago, I went to church one day. And I met a lady from Kenya, Africa. I got to know her quite well. My wife got to know her quite well. We got to know her husband and children when they began to come to the church after they immigrated in. They were definitely the foreigners who immigrated in. And we all became friends. We would eat together every week, and we would go places together every week. And of course, they had just immigrated in from Kenya, and so, economically they were really struggling. And one day, they called me. Remember, they were very poor. They called me and they said, "Elder," I was just an elder back then. Not just an elder, but I was an elder. I said, "Elder, the Lord has need of his car." And I didn't know what she was talking about. I really couldn't interpret the statement. I said, "The Lord has need of his car." And I wanted to say, well, where did he park it? And before I got to say it, she said, "And it's parked in your driveway." We must get a driver's license here. And so you must find time to bring the Lord's car. So that the Lord's work may be done. They were designed to belong. Connection had to be my choice. There are people designed to be in that chair. Their connection is not their choice, it's yours. It's belonging by responsibility. When I come back, I'm going to ask you to look at these action steps. I'm going to read them to you before I step down. I'm going to read them again when I step down. These are tangible ways you can take responsibility. 1, I accept the responsibility of my community. We'll talk more about that. Today, I ask God to help me take accountability to my community. 3, I will be a solution manager, not a problem maker in my community. 3, I will not wait for the connection team to greet people. And lastly, I want information on small groups. Stay here, I'll be right back.